Alright, so we have basically a fully functional quiz with HTML5, JavaScript, jQuery, but I'd like to optimize the code a little more and kind of shorten it up a little bit. If we look at the JavaScript file, you can see that, for instance, for our click handlers, we have basically 5 separate blocks like this, where we're saying if we click on that question, submit, it'll run this function. It'll hide all the other questions, which is fine, and then we're calling the process function and manually putting in the question name or number. Okay, we got Q1, Q2, and I don't want to do that. I'd like to have basically one of these blocks and grab this from the actual data. And what I mean is from the HTML5 data attributes. Okay, we're using data question. All right, so I wanted to look at this number, this number, this number, instead of having to manually punch in Q1, Q2. All right, so let's do that. We're going to keep this how it is. Of course, we want all of our questions hidden, and then we want to show the first question, so that's fine. What I'm going to do though is create kind of a universal click handler. Alright, and I'm going to leave these here for now, but I will be deleting these afterwards. I just want you to see that what I'm going to be doing is basically this, but dynamically using the data variables. Okay, so let's say instead of saying like this Q1 submit, let's say any question that's submitted, and we can do that with the class question form, and we want to get the submit button, so it has the ID of submit, and we're going to say dot click function. Alright, so whenever any question is submitted, it's going to go here, as opposed to having 5 separate ones here. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we need to figure out what question it is without having to manually type it in like this. So we can do that with the data attribute. Okay, so let's say get data attribute, and we're going to have 2 of them. We want the current question that we're on, and we also want the next question. Okay, so let's create a variable called current, and we're going to set it using this. Alright, so this is jQuery, and basically this pertains to whatever element is being clicked. Okay, so we're going to say this dot parents. By parents, we want the next element up. So let's take a look at a question, and we're actually pertaining to the submit button. Okay, we're doing that right here. Alright, so the parent of this button is the form. It's in the form. It's not the UL or the H3. These are on the same levels. Okay, all 3 of these elements are on the same levels. We want the parent of button, which is the form, which has the data variable or the data attribute. Alright, so we're going to say this dot parents, and we're going to say form first dot data question. Alright, so that's going to get whatever we have for the data question, and this is a jQuery method data, which is used to get any kind of data attribute like this. Alright, you can see the parameter is whatever we have right here. Alright, so we also want to get the next question as well. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to change this current to next, and we can say the same exact thing, except we want to say +1. Alright, so if this is Q1, the next one is going to be Q2. Alright, so next we want to hide all questions, just like we've been doing. We can actually just copy this. And what we want to do is show or fade in the next question. Alright, so we're going to use jQuery. And right here we're going to do a little concatenation. We're going to say Q. Yeah, because we're going to grab the ID, and you can see that the ID of each form is Q1, Q2. So we don't want to just put in a static number like 1 or 2. We want it to be the next number. All right, so we're going to say next. Yeah, so that should concatenate that in there. So this will basically be, if we're on question 1, this would be Q2, because that's going to be the next one, and that's what we want to bring in. Alright, so we're going to say fade in 300. And then finally we want to process the question, so we're still going to call the process function just like we did, except we're not going to put a static number in here. We're going to use the current. Okay, so we want that we want to place it in as a string, so that's why we're doing this these quotes. We want Q1, Q2, whatever it is, to be in quotes. Okay, and then we're just going to return false. Okay, so let's get rid of these. Alright, so let's just save this and see what happens. Okay, so what it's doing is showing all the questions. So it looks like we have an issue. Alright, and the issue looks to be with this next variable. I didn't properly concatenate it. We need to add a plus sign here, and that should do it. Alright, good. Now we should be able to complete the quiz and pretty much do what we did before we optimized the code. So let's just try it out. We'll get one wrong on purpose. Alright, so it doesn't show us any results or anything because we need to fix our process function. Before, what we were doing, we're passing in this variable which was either Q1, Q2, up to Q5, alright, and then we're doing a comparison. But now you can see here we're passing in the number, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is coming from this attribute, this data question. Alright, so we have to change this function and adapt to just the number, not the Q1, Q2. So what I'm going to do here is change this to an N to represent number. It's going to represent the question number. And I'm going to push all this down for a minute. We're going to end up deleting these blocks, alright, because we don't want the same code repeated over and over. Alright, so let's just optimize this. So what we're going to do here is we need to get the submitted value. Alright, so I'm going to copy this. Okay, we'll say get input value. Alright, now what we have here is the value that we put in the input that has the name Q1. Alright, now this is static. We need to make this dynamic so we can change this 1 to whatever this N is. Alright, so that's what we're going to do. Let's get rid of that 1, and we then want to concatenate the N. Okay, so this will be, for instance, if it's question 1, this will be name equals Q1. If it's 2, it'll be name equals Q2. So it's dynamic, it changes. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is basically the same kind of thing we're repeating down here. Okay, we want to copy this. Alright, so we're saying if submitted is equal to, and then we're going to have the stored answer. But again, this is static, this A1. We want to change this 1 to whatever that N is. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing and just actually we're going to do it this way. Let's do session storage dot get item. Now this get item, if you say get item A1, it's the same as just saying session storage dot A1. Alright, but since we're using a variable in here, I just want to use this get item format. Alright, so A, we don't want the 1, we want to concatenate that N. Okay, and then we want plus, and then 2 quotes. Okay, and basically this here is doing all of this. Alright, it's just replacing the static Q's for the actual number that comes from the data attribute. Alright, now we can actually get rid of this, all of these blocks, which is nice. Now you can see in the last question it's then outputting the results. Alright, so what do I want to do here? Actually, I know what I want to do. We have these variables up here. This is where you can work with these. We want to get the total. We know there's 5 questions. Alright, so down here I am going to get rid of these, all except the Q5. Alright, so I don't want to say if Q equals Q5. I want to say if N, let me see, I want to say if N is equal to total. Alright, and let me just get rid of this. Alright, if N is equal to total, so what we're saying here is if N is equal to 5. Alright, because 5 is the last number. Oh, let me change this comment right here. This should be all. Alright, so we're saying if N is 5, which is the last one, then we want to output our results. So let's actually give this a shot. We'll save it. Alright, good. So we have it working. Your final score is 3 out of 5. Alright, so it is working now. What I want to do though is I want to give the option to have a question equal however many points that you want. Alright, because right now we're just incrementing by 1 with the score plus plus. What I want to do is, if they get it right, I want the score to equal the current score plus point. Alright, so if we go up here and we change this point to 2, then the highest score possible is going to be total, which is 5 times 2, which is 10. Alright, so down here, and that should work. So let's try this again. Get some wrong here. Alright, so your final score is 6 out of 5. That doesn't make sense. I have to go down here and change. It says score out of 5. We want to change this to that highest variable. Alright, so we just want to concatenate that. Alright, so that should work. Alright, so we got a 10 out of 10 because each question is worth 2 points. Alright, so you can easily customize those things up here. So it's working perfectly. The last thing I want to do is just to output a little message depending on the score. Alright, so we want to go right under the results, we're going to say if score is equal to 5. Actually, you know what? We can't do that because we made it so that they can create their own point system. So let's say if score is equal to highest, then what we'll do is we'll just append onto the results ID using jQuery. We're going to do results dot append So basically, if they get it all right, it's going to say you are an HTML5 master. Let's put that to the test. Alright, so it's outputting you are an HTML5 master. Now what we could do, keeping it dynamic and not using fixed numbers, we could say, and I didn't plan this, I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head. We could do something like else if score is equal, we'll say if score is equal to score takeaway point. Alright, so basically if they get one wrong, right, we'll say if they get one or two wrong. So we'll say if score is equal to score takeaway point, or score is equal to score takeaway point. And I know this is a little redundant, I'm just kind of winging it. We'll just say good job. Alright, let's see if that works. Whoops, we have an issue here. Unexpected token 48. Alright, so he said else if unexpected token, why? Oh, we need to put a space here with the else if. I do a lot of PHP coding, and in PHP you can leave them together. So that should fix that. Alright. So let's go ahead and get one wrong. Alright, so we don't get the good job. If score is equal to, oh, you know what? We want this to be highest, not score. Score is equal to highest takeaway point, or it's equal to highest takeaway point. Alright, let's try that. Alright, so now we're getting the good job. So, I mean, that might not be the most practical way to do it as far as the messaging, but it just gives you an idea of how you can use these variables. So that's it for our quiz application. You can see how much we've slimmed down this quiz.js file. There's no more repetitive blocks of code, and that's really what optimal programming is all about, is condensing it and having it still make sense and still do what you want. I know this is an HTML5 series, but if you want to use HTML5 features, it's inevitable. You're going to have to use some JavaScript, and you're going to have to learn JavaScript and possibly jQuery as well. Alright, so that's it for the quiz app. I will see you in the next chapter.